Hi, I'm here with Eva Sossi. So, Eva, what's your full name?
Eva and Kuban Sossi,
Okay, so Eva, where were you born?
Lednica, Czechoslovakia.
Okay, and so that country split. So is that in Is it that in the Czech Republic or
No,
in Slovakia?
it's in Slovakia.
Awesome. Could you describe the town of Lednica?
I have no recollection at all, Dino.
Do you have any feelings about when you were there? Did you feel good about it? Did you feel happy?
There was there was one room in the house for some reason. Instead of having Santa Claus, they had a guy that uh, he was the devil, and he came around instead. So I remember that. I remember being scared.
So
Did
did,
did I get anything from him? I have no recollection, but I was scared of him.
was there actually artwork, or was it just like a story about this scary fellow? Like what reminded you of this?
Because he was instead of being a good guy, he was a bad guy. So we knew that we had done something wrong as children growing up to that point of time. That's all I remember.
Oh, so you don't remember if you saw like a picture of this person
No,
or they told a story?
no, I don't. I have no recollection what he wore, how tall he was, how big he was. What did he overpower me, sort of thing? No, nothing.
Do you have any other memories of Lednica?
No.
Could you describe your house?
Only from a picture I just saw recently.
Okay, so what did it look like?
Very old and very broken up.
Do you remember the did you remember the color of it or how it was shaped?
Yeah, kind of a rectangle, I guess. Yeah, I guess kind of a rectangle. White and yellow and dirty.
Hmm. And do you know anything about the town Lednica? Why it was dirty? Like, was there industry there? Was there anything that would make it dirty?
Do you know? I have no idea. I have no idea what was in that village at all.
Okay, so just to give some context, what date were you born?
April 22, 1932.
Okay, so you like this is a long time ago when all this happened. Um, you don't have is part of the reason you don't have memories. Is it partly because you guys left when you were so young?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, why did your family leave Lednica?
Bec- because they knew there was going to be another war. My dad did, and he survived the before, and he didn't want to go through it again, and he didn't think the family should have to go through one again.
So he survived
The war. He had a hole in his right here.
in the
I
middle of
could
his forehead,
I could put my finger up to my up to that knuckle.
up to your thumb's knuckle.
From yeah, he was in a tank, so shrapnel of some kind did that.
And okay, so he was in a tank, and that was in World War I.
I guess so.
Okay, so how would your dad have known about the trouble coming?
I guess they just knew. I mean they talked to each other. Mayor, he was a mayor. He had maybe privy information. I have no idea.
Okay, go ahead, go ahead.
No, I don't know anything else.
Okay, so could you describe what did your father look like?
He's a handsome man, like you. Yeah, dark hair, chiseled features. No, he had no mustache. Chiseled features. Good looking man.
And for his, in this town, what was his role in Lednica?
He was a mayor. What a mayor encountered in those days, I have no idea. 5 years older, it's going to be very political.
Do you remember? Were there a lot of people in this town?
That even that I don't know. I don't remember being surrounded or in a lot of in a group of a lot of people. I don't remember any of that. The first really big group of people was on a boat.
Okay. We'll get to that in a second. What was your father's name was,
John Kuban,
and could you spell that?
Kuban,
And his first name?
Jan, Jan, John.
Okay.
But it was John here, but Jan there.
Okay. And your mother was her name?
Augustine. Augustine, I think.
Okay.
I think.
And then, do you know how they met?
Pardon?
How did they meet?
No, I have no idea. They never ever talked about their private life. Nothing. I have a funny feeling the group of people around them would point to, hey, that's a good catch, sort of thing. I don't know.
So, but they lived around Lednica.
Yeah.
Okay. How could you describe your mom?
Mom was a very ordinary looking lady like me.
That's not true. You're quite pretty.
But she was a nice lady. I wouldn't have changed her for anything in the world. I have pictures of her. She's not a gorgeous looking lady. Not like my children.
Okay, so you said your first memory was on a boat. Okay, so what was this boat? What was this boat? Where were you going?
Okay, now this I do not remember where we were, but I know we were going to Canada. I do know that. And I saw my first Indian, and I was scared of him, but I was enthralled by him because I'd follow him around, peeking around to see where he was. I had my first orange, and Mom and Dad were seasick, and the kids had a ball. We roamed the ship, no problem at all. We could do almost anything.
So you were leaving from from Slovakia for?
Do you know? I don't remember.
Just for somewhere in Canada.
Yeah, somewhere in Canada.
How old were you? What year was it?
I was 5 years old when I came to Canada.
So it was around 19.
Yeah,
what year?
37.
Okay.
5 years after.
And so this Indian, so how did you see the Indian? What happened? You were just walking around and you saw.
Yeah, I don't know whether he was just there for show or amusement or whatever. You know, it was something, and it amused us.
And so he was dressed like in, like
yeah, the feathers, the whole bit.
So like more like a North American native.
Yeah.
And he would just kind of walk around the ship, and you would follow him.
He wasn't trying to hurt anybody or scare anybody. He just walked around like a normal person.
And so you're a little kid. Do you know how, like, and again, just the way you're making it sound, I'm not 100% sure. You think he was more there for entertainment?
I'm not sure if it was for entertainment, but it certainly was for us.
Yeah, because you're little, you don't know any better.
For us, it was.
Okay, so tell the story. How did you get your first orange?
How did I get my what?
First orange.
Orange? The nurses handed them out. Like, okay, Mom and Dad were sick. They were in their cabin pretty well all the time, and so there was a group of women that was part of the ship, and they took care of the kids in groups, right? Because there was more than just 10 kids or something like that. So they would give us orange or something else. I don't know. I don't remember any, but the orange impressed me. I like that.
And your parents were like seasick, or they were sick from something else?
No, they were seasick.
How long did the trip take? Do you remember?
No.
At least a couple of days.
Oh, I'm sure even probably more than 2.
Do you remember? Okay, so did you sleep like underneath, like in this?
That I don't know. I have no idea anybody putting me to sleep. Maybe I didn't sleep. Maybe I roamed the ship all night long.
So you remember the orange? You remember the Indian? Do you remember anything else about the trip? Did you like being on the boat?
I like being on the boat. I wasn't scared of being on the boat.
Did you feel somehow that you were leaving Europe for good?
It didn't. It didn't matter to me.
You're more there just for the trip.
Yeah, I was a free spirit. I didn't care.
Okay, at the time, so you're with your mom and your dad. Did you have any siblings?
Yeah, my sister Sophie and Adam and some of the older children, but they were on a different passport, so I don't really know who was where.
So Sophie is your sister.
Yeah.
And you were born again in what year?
1932.
She was born when?
Not, I think it was 37.
Okay. And so how was your relationship with Sophie?
Sophie, uh, she was a good sister, and she got blamed for a lot of things I did. Apparently, I'm afraid.
Um, like, do you remember any examples?
I don't remember. All I know is she said, I got blamed for everything you ever did. And I apparently was just a very nosy little girl. I wanted to get into everything. And I did.
That's cute. Do you remember when you first? Do you remember where you landed? You sounded like you didn't know. You landed somewhere in Canada.
I have no idea.
Do you remember what time of year this was? Was it in the spring or somewhere?
I have no idea. Do you know? I don't remember being hot. I don't remember being cold. So I honestly have nothing to go by.
Okay, what were your first impressions of Canada?
I honestly don't remember. I have no idea. None. I wasn't scared. I guess I followed wherever I was told to go. I didn't give anybody trouble. So it must have been okay.
Where did you end up living?
Okay, we had friends in halfway between Chatham and Blenheim, and they were already in Canada for a while. They had a farm, so they took us in till we got a place of our own in Blenheim. And why we couldn't get our house in Blenheim right away, apparently they had bed bugs. Like anybody that came from old country brought bed bugs apparently. So there you go.
So you lived. So it was basically you came from your ship somewhere to the east coast of Canada, then you made your way to Ontario.
Yeah. And I know I could pick their house out. Even now today, I can tell you which house it was that I first lived in.
Given again, this is a long time ago, and it sounds like you're young, so you don't need to apologize at all. What was your impression of that place? Like, did you find it big? Did you find it like?
Well, hey, it's beautiful country. Blenheim, and between Blenheim and Chatham, it's awesome country. Beautiful crops, beautiful upkeep. The barns, the houses are awesome. I mean, you couldn't find anything nicer. Even a little kid would be impressed, I'm sure.
So, how long did you stay there?
That I don't remember. I know it wasn't long, so maybe a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks or something. I don't know how long it takes to clear a house of bed bugs.
And then where did you go to next?
We went to our house in Blenheim, and that I don't know where it was. I have no idea, no recollection at all. And then I met people, and then made plans to go to school and church. The normal.
Cool. Awesome. That's great. So let's just stop right now. We'll come back. We'll talk about your school life in a moment. Okay, so we're here today with my mama, Eva Sossi, Eva Kuban
Sossi.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you went to school where?
In Blenheim.
Blenheim, Ontario.
Blenheim, Ontario, and it was about a mile from our house, and we walked to school. It was run by the Saint Aloysius monks, and I loved Father. What's his name? I can't think of his name, but he was awesome with kids. Everybody loved him. And the only thing I remember about school, I liked some boy. And I got up one day and I went across the aisle and I gave him a kiss and went back and sat in my chair. That's the only thing I remember about that school.
How did the boy respond?
Huh?
How did the boy respond?
He didn't do it. He was surprised. No big deal. I mean, we were only maybe 5, 6, 7 years old, somewhere in there.
Did the teacher see you do that?
Just laughed.
The teacher just laughed?
Yeah, he just laughed. He didn't do anything.
Do you remember the boy's name?
Santavi. I don't remember his first name. Their last name was Santavi.
Why did you kiss him?
Why?
Why?
I have no idea.
Do you think he was cute?
Oh, I know why. Because I ended up going to his farm with Mom and Dad for some unknown reason, and met him again, and that's why I remember the Santavi. No big deal.
So you made it sound like that was your first school. Did you go to another school after that?
Yeah. Well, then, yeah. That one was closer to where we lived, and it was just a regular old brick public school, and very cold in the wintertime. The teacher had to stoke up the fire and all that baloney. That was hard. And sometimes we came to school on a sled by some parent who'd pick up all the kids. The snow sometimes, was so deep, and take my word, the ditches by our house, you're talking
like 3-4 feet high.
Deep. You couldn't tell the ditches from the road. So the guys had to do this on a grown-up kind of thing. Yeah, because the kids would have been lost.
So, did you switch schools because of your age? Like, what was the decision? You said it was closer, which is good, but like, why did they make you switch? Or did you just decide to switch?
We didn't really skip school. I'm sure we must have, because of the weather, or because of somebody couldn't bring us to school or something. But no, we pretty went to school every day. Yep.
Because you came over, you spoke Slovakian? What was your first language?
I'm sure we spoke both. I'm sure at home we probably spoke Czechoslovakian, and kids took language.
What were the two languages you spoke?
English and Czechoslovakian.
Even in Slovakia.
Oh no, no. We didn't know any English there, none.
So do you remember your first experiences trying to speak English?
No. I guess I didn't have any trouble.
So school, you don't remember having any weird incidences going to school where you couldn't speak?
The only thing I remember being called a DP, and I didn't like it, and I slapped a boy across the face.
Okay, so what's a DP?
Displaced person.
And what did that mean?
Displaced person. That means I don't belong in this spot. I don't belong in this spot.
Okay, so could you sort of explain what happened? So you were in school, and what happened?
Well, we were just playing outside and some game, and he just called me a DP, and I didn't like it. I didn't know what it meant. I have no idea. I didn't like it, and I slapped him. And I left a great big ring mark on the side of his, right here somewhere.
On, I guess, temple, on his right temple.
Yeah. But we became friends.
What did you like doing in school at that age? Like, okay, what age were you when that happened?
Oh, That would have been already 12, 13, 14, somewhere in there.
So what did you like doing at school at that age?
I liked everything in school. I liked art. I liked anything the teacher wanted me to do. She'd ask me to do art for a lot of things for school. I don't know. I know I did some very nice art. I know that. I remember seeing some of it after.
What did you draw? Did you
Yeah,
paint?
yeah. Well, draw and color and paint or whatever was necessary for school. Like the teacher always had something she thought should be remembered in art form. I don't know. Maybe it made more of an impression for kids to remember. I don't know.
Did you play sports?
Oh yeah, anything and everything I could.
What sports do you remember that you like playing?
Uh,
Baseball?
I was never left out of baseball ever. I'd be the first one called.
And because why?
And because I was a tomboy. I liked sports. I even tried to tackle boys.
And would you try to kiss them after?
No. No, at that age, no. You
No,
don't kiss boys at that age. No. That's a taboo.
How did your parents adjust to Canada?
I don't think they had any trouble. They didn't seem to okay, I remember Dad at the end of the day, because don't forget, he's not a farmer by trade or anything. If he didn't have his son-in-law, Adam Slemensky, we wouldn't have had a farm. We wouldn't have. He'd sit down at the end of a meal in the evening, and he'd have Slovak papers to read from the old country. And I remember him crying.
Do you know why he was crying?
He never ever told us.
Why do you think he was crying?
Well, don't forget the war was on at that time, so I'm sure a lot of that had to do with that. And I'm sure a lot of his friends, were involved.
How do you think your mother was adjusting? Like seeing her husband crying
She hid her feelings so much. It is unbelievable. You never knew if she was really happy or sad or anything. She just kept trudging on. She was a rock.
Would she stay kind of more with you and Sophie at home and take care of you, or did she work with your dad on the farm, or what would she do?
No, she was right out on the farm with Dad, and at a certain time, she knew I have to go home and make dinner for everybody. So that's the rules. That's the rules of the game.
What kind of crops did they have?
Tobacco, sugar beets, corn, beans, you name it, it was there.
And you said your father wasn't a great farmer?
No.
So was it like he just didn't know what he was doing, or he just didn't like doing it, or what would you say?
No, well, I mean, he's a mayor, right? He's a nothing sort of thing. And you're confronted with all these different things. I'm sure it must have been a puzzle, Nothing is the same. Corn isn't like tobacco. You have to know what you have to do with tobacco before you even plant it. Yeah, I must have been hard. It must have been.
And this Adam person, he just helped your dad plant and grow the crops.
We lived together. I don't know what Dad would have done without Adam. I don't.
So he lived in your farm, or what did he?
He lived in the same house as we did. Yeah.
So did you buy the farm and the house?
Yeah.
So you just had some old money from the old country?
I don't know. Did my father come with money? I have no idea. I never heard about money being anywhere.
Could you describe the farm or the house?
Okay. There's the road. There's the ditch, and a lot of land that way. A lot of land that way, and yeah, I mean they section it off. How many acres they have, like how many acres they have of each thing. Yeah, no big deal.
And
Oh, and even tomatoes. We, we,
we're having a dog attack.
we've got competition.
So
Okay, we even had tomatoes, and I could pick tomatoes, no problem at all, and hoist them up in the truck. Tobacco was more of a, you have to cut it down and put it on whatever a slat. It was a slat, and they didn't let me do that because I would have hurt myself. It was a very sharp thing that it would have to go on. It's hard. It's hard to explain.
it's okay.
Hard to explain. Yeah. Okay. Here's your slat. Here's this thing. It's you pull the tobacco plant on this, and it goes through the middle of it, and pull it down, and then they hang it up in the garage or in the barn till it cures.
Okay, so and then when you were on the farm, were all the crops for your family to consume, or did you sell them to make money?
Oh no, they were sold. Well, there were things like we had a garden. Don't ever kid yourself. We always had a garden right close to the house, and yeah, I mean, tobacco was sold, beans were sold, corn was sold, tomatoes were sold. Everything was sold. Everything. It all went to Leamington. There was a whatever. What do you call it?
Like a market there.
Yeah.
So,
A factory. Leamington had ketchup factory and all kinds of stuff. So I'm sure they had a whole bunch of other stuff. I don't know.
so do you think your parents did they adopt and like living in Canada and being farmers, or how would you describe their transition?
I don't think they were unhappy, Dino. I really don't. I don't ever remember. Like, yeah, I mean, I'd see my father cry. I understood. I wouldn't have understood it then. But now when you think about it, I mean, he's reading things about his country that he left behind. Yeah, I'm sure it hurt. You know?
Okay, and then so you would go to school during the day and work at the farm at night, or what was your daily routine?
No, during a really busy crop season, depending on what it was, like tomato season, they'd let us go help pick tomatoes earlier. And it wasn't just us kids, it would be the whole community. So there you go. Everybody was on the same page pretty well.
So how was because you're getting older, how was your high school life like?
My high school life was I can't complain. I really can't. It was a very, very easy transition from public school to high school. And when Dad says I can't go anymore because he didn't believe in girls going to school, he said, why would we waste time going to school when you're going to get married and you're going to have babies, and there you go. So when I came up against that, I said, okay, I'm going to go to work. So at age 16, I went to Windsor with my sister Sophie and her in-laws, and I got a job at a bank, and that was it.
And what did you do at the bank? Were you a teller?
At the bank, I ended up being a teller, but slowly from what would you call it? When somebody comes into the bank and they don't know what they need to do and where to go, there's a little booth
Like a
set
little
aside.
information booth, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. I started off there, and I was there for maybe a 6 months. I have no idea. Yeah, I mean, in a bank, you went up, no problem, no problem.
How was it being in Windsor versus being in
Oh,
Blenheim?
awesome.
Why was that?
Well, Windsor was big. Lots of lights, lots of movie houses, lots of everything, lots of people. You know, the city people.
And was it growing because of the car industry, or why was it so big?
I think because of the I don't know if the car industry was there yet. I don't remember that, but it could have been. I don't know, but no, it was a pretty lot of hustle and bustle about something or other. So I don't really know. I guess I just didn't get interested into what kind of a city it really was.
But being from a small town, you found it. How did you find the city of Windsor?
Well, I liked it. I didn't mind it. I mean, it had no ill effects on me, and I didn't mind the people, and the people were nice. Nobody bothered us. Not like now. Sometimes more people bother us now in the city than they did then.
Great. You know, we'll come back and talk to you some more, but next time we'll talk a little bit about your move to Sarnia. But we'll be back in a minute. All right. So we're talking with my mother, Eva Sossi, today. So Eva, could you talk about how old were you when you moved to Windsor, Ontario, to the big city?
16.
And so at the time, what kind of work were you doing?
I was just a little old nothing clerk in the Bank of Nova Scotia in Windsor on Olette Avenue.
And how was Windsor at the time?
To me, it was really a big city. A lot of lights, a lot of people, a lot of traffic, a lot of everything. It was interesting.
So given that you grew up in somewhere pretty rural and pastoral, how did you make the transition yourself?
None, that's no problem for any kid. That was easy. Uh, and of course, I always had a bus to take home, and I lived close to the bridge, so that wasn't nice. It was nice. It was nice. I liked it.
What would you do at that age, like for entertainment when you weren't working?
When I wasn't working, I belonged to a youth society in the church, and they kept us pretty busy. They had things going for us all the time, and we were young adults at the time. I like that. They don't have that anymore.
So okay, so was religion very important to you at the time?
Yeah, yeah. It brought all kinds of young people together that you would have probably never met any other way.
So did you find was your faith important to you, or was it more of a social setting for you?
I think it was more of a social setting. I don't think religion was all that important to us at that time, Dino. Religion becomes more important later.
Okay, do you remember how much were you making at the time?
Probably $35
Oh,
a week.
a week.
Yeah.
And then at that time, was that a lot of money?
That was a lot of money.
Do you remember how much? Because you stayed with who did you stay with in Windsor?
My sister Sophie.
So did you pay her rent?
Yeah,
And how much? Do you remember how much you paid her?
that I don't remember.
But it was much less than 35.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Like if you had to make a sort of a guess, would it be like $5 a week?
Probably.
And so you had $30 a week to spend.
Yeah. Well,
That's
there
great.
was Grandpa, Grandma, their son Tony, and then his wife Sophie, and the kids weren't born yet, and me. So that was 5 people. So, yeah, they didn't need very much extra money. They were all working.
Did you sleep in the basement, or what? Did they have a room for you? Or
No,
where did you?
no, they had a room for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
How would you communicate with your parents very often?
Well, they spoke Czechoslovakian, and of course I did too. So that was no hardship.
Would like, given that you're not living in your parents are still in Blenheim, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so would you phone them or anything, or how
Oh,
would?
I'd go home and any time I could get away, I'd go home.
Did you miss your mommy and daddy?
Yes, my dad missed me. Mom would never let me know if she missed me, but Dad did.
And then how did you know that he missed you?
I'd be sitting on his lap right away. Not because I went there, because he grabbed me and put me there.
Hmm.
He wanted to know what I was up to.
Do you think he had second thoughts about having you not go to school and leave? Do you think he would have liked you to stay at home?
I think if he had lived longer and seen how the world was changing for girls, maybe he would have felt bad. You know, he would have realized education is not a bad thing for girls. You know.
Okay, so you go there like a couple times a month, maybe?
Oh yeah, no problem. Yeah.
Okay, so your story eventually ends up in Sarnia. How did you make your way to Sarnia, Ontario?
because the Baskers moved to Sarnia.
And who are the Vaskers?
That's my sisters-in-law,
Your sister.
the one we were living with in Windsor.
Oh, so the people you're boarding with decided to go to Sarnia, and so
yeah.
then you just decided to go with them.
Yeah.
How did your parents think about that? Or
They didn't mind. I mean, I think they felt comfortable that they knew that somebody was keeping tabs on me, and maybe tell them if I did anything wrong,
Okay,
I don't know.
How old were you when you moved to Sarnia?
Oh, I have no recollection of how long. But I must have been in Windsor for at least 3-4 years, maybe more. I have records. I have records that I have still that I could look at. How long I was there.
So you moved to Sarnia when you were 19, 20?
Some probably, yeah.
What did you do initially for work when you moved to Sarnia?
I went to Chambers Electric, and they sold fridges, stoves, wiring. They did contract work for big companies like electricity or anything like that. So I'd help do the estimating. So I was I learned a lot of stuff there, really.
So what was your role there?
Anything they wanted me to be.
Full service.
Yeah.
How did you compare Sarnia to Windsor or to Blenheim?
I always liked all the places I moved. I had no problem. I was living in a house that I liked. It wasn't far from work. My work was easy. I liked it. I didn't like one boss, but when I told my real boss what he was like, he said, "You don't have to go up there." He was being a little touchy feely.
Hey! Don't touch me like that.
Yeah, exactly. Touchy feely, and you don't know how to handle that yet. Totally.
Okay, so I thought you were you living initially in Sarnia with the Vaskers, and then you moved to a boarding house?
Yeah, because they didn't have a house right away, and when they did get one, I didn't want to live with them anymore. And it was much closer to where I worked. Like I could walk to work in the wintertime, and it wouldn't, be a hardship by any means. Yeah, you do what you have to do, Dino.
Okay, and then so eventually, when you were in Sarnia, you met a certain gentleman from Italy. Who did you meet?
My husband to be.
What was his name?
Carlos Sossi. He was living with my sister in my sister's house, when they finally bought their house, he lived there in the basement. Not, pardon me, not in the basement. They have privileges in the basement for cooking, for washing their clothes, for everything else, and they all had their own bedrooms.
So your sister Sophie eventually moved with you to Sarnia.
Yeah.
So she initially live with you in the Vaskers and their place.
And yeah, they had, but I wasn't there. I wasn't there at that time.
Okay.
I moved there after.
So Carlo Sossi, my father, your husband, he lived with your sister Sophie.
Yeah.
So do you remember the first time you met?
Run.
Sorry, you ran. The first time you saw him, you ran from him.
No. Run the opposite direction.
You were going in opposite directions, like on the street.
I knew he was trouble. I knew he was trouble to me. I don't know how I knew that, but I knew.
So
that magnetism was already there, almost instantaneously.
Okay, so how old were you when you met Carlo?
About 23, 24, somewhere in there. And then a girl moved in there called Yvette, and her and I became real friends. She was from the US of A, and she was just in Canada for a while to work in some place. I don't even remember now. So her and I started being really good friends, like I said. And then all of a sudden, because Carlo had the car, he was included because he could take us further than we could go on our feet. So the three of us became the Three Musketeers. So that's how that started. And then her boyfriend wanted her to move to Flint, Michigan, which she did. And then that left Carlo and me all by ourselves in Sarnia. And then we started dating.
So well, let's just go back a bit. When you first met my father and your husband, you said you were running in opposite directions or something?
Yeah, I said I was running away from the magnetism. Do you know there are people that affect you that way right away? And that's what your father did.
And you could tell.
Run. He's trouble.
So do you remember where you physically met?
Pardon?
Where did you physically meet?
In front of Sophie's house.
And so what was the setting like? Were you visiting her? Was he going to live there? How did
Oh, he was already living there.
And did Sophie want you to meet him?
Yeah. Well, Sophie didn't necessarily, but I mean, I was in good terms with Sophie by all means, and the Vaskers, I mean, they didn't mind me, so it just happened.
Do you remember what he looked like when you first met him?
He was big. He wasn't very muscular. He worked in Holmes Foundry. He'd come home looking like a coal mine. He'd have coal all over him. Yeah. I don't know. We just got along. We really did. I mean, we talked a lot. And of course, he wanted to improve his English as much as possible. And that takes a lot of talking, you know that.
So do you remember how old he was when you met him?
You know, I never ever thought of that at all.
But when you met him, you'd kind of like, based on your age, if you were 22, he was like 31.
Probably. And 9 years older.
Yeah, and so he came. So how long had he been in Canada by that time?
That do you know? I honestly do not know. I never ever thought to ask.
But not a long time.
No, I have no idea. I don't think. No, because his English was very choppy. That's for sure.
Okay, so do you remember your first date? You said that you eventually went on a date.
The first date is actually, he wanted me to be a model for his hairdressing. He wanted to be a hairdresser. He had been going to London, Ontario every Monday morning for God knows how many years already. And his exam was coming up. So he wanted me to be the model. And I went. I went.
So he was going there to get like training for like at a beauty school.
He already had the training. He was going to get the license. That was the final license.
And
part.
so you were going to be his final model for his final license.
Yeah.
How did that make you feel when he asked you to do that?
Well, I was kind of surprised. You know, I mean, he knew a lot of girls. I mean, women really, really liked him. They did. They told me he was married in the old country. They told me all kinds of stories. I didn't know what to believe. So yeah, I kind of held my distance.
How long, like, because you said you went with him and Yvette on like triple date, like the three of you.
Yeah.
And then eventually she moved back to the U.S. How long, like, did you kind of slowly warm up to him and find out he's a decent guy, or how did...
Well, yeah. I mean, you live in the same house, and in the evening after you have your dinner, where are you going? You're not going to go to a movie all the time. You're not going to go anything. We go for a walk and we just talk and stuff like that. It made it easy, you know.
And when did you know that he was the one for you?
Like I said, I think I knew it right as the first time I met him. I honestly believe that. I have no idea why.
Great. I think we're going to stop here and then we'll come and talk about your marriage and family life in Sarnia, Ontario. I'm here with my mother, Eva, and we're talking about her life. So you were born in Lednica, Czechoslovakia. Mm-hmm. Then you moved and lived and grew up in Blenheim, Ontario. Mm-hmm. And then eventually you went to work at the Bank of Nova Scotia in Windsor, Ontario. Then you worked at Chambers Electric in Sarnia, Ontario. And that's where you met who?
Eva Sossi.
Who would become?
My husband.
Okay, so could you talk about, I know that we talked in the last part about how you would kind of met and you went dating. How did you actually decide to get married? How did that happen?
I got pregnant.
How old were you?
Do you know? I don't know.
Like in your 20s?
Must have been pretty close to 30.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there. I never ever thought about that part. Anyway. And he wanted to get married. I didn't want to get married. Women would tell me, all his friends would tell me, he's married in the old country. He has children in the old country. I had nowhere to find out what the heck was real, what wasn't. So we decided we'd get our baptismal certificates and all those stuff that's required by the church, see if we could get any information that way. So he got his and I got mine. We got married.
So you were satisfied after getting the documents?
He wasn't married. Why not?
I'm not saying this to judge. I'm just curious. How was premarital sex back then? Like, was that okay? Like, were people doing that? Was
a no-no. When my sister's mother-in-law found out, I'm sure she was not pleased.
And so, given that it was kind of a no-no, and you're such a, you're my mother, so of course I'm going to think you're a nice lady. Yeah. Although you are a nice lady, even if you weren't my mother. Why were you doing that? Why were you doing that when you probably felt that you shouldn't be doing that?
Well, I knew I shouldn't be doing that.
So why were you doing it?
Well, like, it isn't something that was happening all the time. These were accidents that would happen. You go with a guy maybe for 2-3 weeks, and neither one of you are interested in sex at all, but your feelings do overpower. You do. So that's what happened. Anyway, when we got married, Peter Sossi, Anna Sossi, and Victor Sossi were our sponsors. And after that, I just moved in with Dad on Exmouth Street, that little house that the bank tore down. A little old house.
We've spoken about this beforehand. Was there any? I think you remember telling me something that so when Papa had some friends where they got married but they couldn't have kids. Did that happen at all? Like where?
Not that I know of.
Like
Oh, oh.
didn't he want to make sure that you could have kids?
Yeah, yeah. You're right. I forgot about that.
So could you explain that a little bit more?
Uh, I guess he just wanted to make sure that there would be a future Sophie somewhere down the line, and I'm sure having girls one after the other wasn't very helpful.
Okay, so what decade was this when you were pregnant for the first time?
Where
You were pregnant in the 1950s?
Yeah.
Okay, so walking around Sarnia in the 1950s.
Taboo.
Yeah, so how were people treating you?
My work was fine. That was no problem. Nobody made jokes or gave me a hard time. But no, it was hard.
What did your parents say about this?
I didn't tell them. They were in Blenheim,
So
and they didn't travel.
so
So
when did they eventually find out? Because they would have had to find out at least one of two things: either that you're pregnant or that you're married or both.
No, that after Monica was born, I let them know.
So they didn't see you for like 7-8 months.
Yeah.
At least. Well, yeah, obviously 9 months.
Yeah,
but
exactly. I think maybe even longer than that because I don't know. Maybe the need to be by mom and dad wasn't important, or not, or scared to tell them because they'd be disappointed in you.
So did you feel that you had to get married before you could broach the subject with them?
No, I could have told mom and dad anyway.
But did they ever find out beforehand? They
No.
would have, but they would have found out when you were married that they would have said, "Hey, you okay?"
Yeah, and they did. That's the problem.
How did they find out? Did friends tell them, or
No, I let them know. I let them know by.
you wrote a letter?
Yeah.
The easier way out.
Well, better than face to face.
And how did they react?
Yeah, okay. I mean, I guess they knew, and they liked Carlo. They did. They liked him.
And did they want you to get married when they found out?
Yeah. They didn't insist. Just my dad just told Dad, Carlo, if you love her, she's yours.
Given that your dad was Slovakian and Carlo was Italian or Italian born, was there any conflict they got along well?
Nothing.
So did your dad like Carlo?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many kids did you eventually end up having?
I ended up having 7 children.
Could you name them all?
Yes, I did.
What are their names?
Monica.
Oldest.
Eldest. Monica, the oldest. Cynthia. Carolyn. Gina. Monica, Carolyn, Gina. Oh, Monica, Carolyn, Cynthia, Gina.
Carlo.
Carlo, Dino, and Paula.
7 kids.
Yep.
How was it like raising that many kids in Sarnia, Ontario?
Well, I had no trouble. I mean, I liked my kids. I did. I had no problem changing diapers and feeding them and all that. And even Dad tried to feed them, I mean, when the twins came, he had to help sometimes.
So was your married life, was it a traditional marriage where he worked and then you stayed at home?
Yeah.
And what did Carlo do at the time?
He was a hairdresser.
And then he eventually bridged out into,
A farm.
and also he had some property.
How many? Oh my lord.
But he did, but he had property.
Yes, he did.
Okay, so, um, why did you have so many kids?
He wanted boys. He wanted more boys.
And so it started off with girls, and then he wanted to eventually get to a boy.
Yeah.
And why did he want a boy?
I think it's a man thing. I think that somebody to carry on my name. I think that's what it is. I don't think he ever told me that's what it is. Would it be that for you?
I don't know.
You don't know.
Talk to me later, like in a couple of years. How did you feel about that? Because okay, so Monica, Cynthia, Carolyn, Gina. So the first four would have been girls.
Mm-hmm.
So when you were pregnant for the fifth time, was he like, "Oh, we got to have a"?
And I had a miscarriage between those.
Mm. And how did you deal with that? How was that for you?
Well, the miscarriage was not that I wouldn't recommend to anybody. No, and especially when you do it at home, you're not in a hospital.
Mm.
So yeah, but hey, survived. Cynthia and Carolyn, when you saw them in the incubator, that you were scared because Carolyn was very, very tiny.
So were they born a little premature?
Not really, Dino. Don't forget, I was a very skinny nothing. I was a puny nothing. So yeah.
How was your relationship as you had kids, you and Papa?
No problem at all, Dino. I don't know why we got along so good. I don't. I have the only thing he wanted at the end of the day.
I don't know if I'm going to hear this, but go ahead.
No, nothing dirty, nothing dirty. He would go into the bedroom with his dinner, turn the TV on for the news because he had to watch the news, and I understood that because he talked with people all the time, and that's important with the news part.
As a hairdresser.
Yeah. Okay. And then we talk after, just him and I. I never liked politics before. I would have never got involved in politics without Dad. Never, ever, probably.
How did you feel about giving up your career at the bank and at Chambers Electric?
You know, Dino, it comes and goes. I liked my work. I would have loved to have been probably happy there if I had never married. But I didn't mind trading it for being a mother.
What do you think about today, where you see you see a lot of women who will be both mothers and working? What do you think about that? Is that something that you think you would have liked to have explored, or that?
I feel sorry for the kids because I don't think you build that relationship, that close relationship with your kids if you don't. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. You could build a relationship totally the wrong way. I mean, that would be possible too, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You're just lucky sometimes. I have not.
How was your family life? How was the family life over as we all grew up?
If I could have got rid of Uncle, I would have had a wonderful life. Uncle demanded more time than my kids. He thought he should get that part. I didn't like that.
Did you find it a challenge raising 7 children?
Gino, as I saw them grow up, I could see what their strengths were, what was happening as they were getting older. I knew Carolyn would be okay. I knew Cynthia would have a harder time, and Monica definitely a hard time. And then Gina's the smartest one of the bunch. But I won't tell her that. And don't you tell her that either.
All right. We'll come back in a moment. We'll talk to Eva a little bit about the end of her relationship with my father.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so I'm here with my mother Eva, and we've spoken about her childhood in the Czechoslovakia and in early Canada, her growing up in Blenheim, Ontario, and her married life here in Canada. So, what happened to our father, Carlo?
One morning, he got up in June, and I knew he was kind of groggy. Do you know, kind of like a little bit drunk almost? And
But he wasn't drunk.
no, oh no, oh God, no, he was never that kind of guy. He went to work from our place at 1403 Colburn Road to 435 Exmouth Street to cut some grass or something.
And what was it, Exmouth Street?
It was a little house that Uncle and Nona were living in at the time. And he was cutting grass, and he just fell over. He passed out.
How old was he at the time?
86. I think 86.
It was 1986, but how old would he have been?
80.
In his early 60s?
Yeah, I never thought of that. I'm not good with math in my head.
But I think he's in his early 60s.
Yeah, I don't even know how old I was when he died. Anyway, he was 9 years older than I was. But I don't remember the date. I don't. I just know he died in 1986. We went. Uncle called. And he came to pick me up. Took me to the hospital. And there's Dad hooked up to whatever somewhere down here. So I'm thinking he got hurt when he fell. He must have fell on the lawnmower or something. And he didn't recover. He didn't recover one little bit ever. And Gina, for some reason, because she was pregnant at the time, she sat beside him. She held his hand. She wouldn't let go. I guess she needed that contact, so I let her. Did the doctor come and tell me anything? No. Did the doctor tell me what happened? What happened? Why did he die? No. Not the doctors. The doctors. The doctors ask you now, how did people die? What did they die of? They want to know. Nobody knew then. Nobody wanted to tell you anything. So I know absolutely nothing.
So you still don't know why he died?
No. No.
Oh, okay. When our uncle gave you a phone call, how did you feel when you heard the call?
Shock. I think I went blank. I don't remember feeling anything. I don't remember the ride. I don't remember the ride to the hospital. Nothing. Never saw the doctor. Not even his toe.
How long was Papa in the hospital for?
I think it was only about 3 days that I can recall. I don't think it was more than 3 days. Even that I'm not sure anymore.
How did you feel given that you had so many kids still?
Scared for all of you. Scared.
Scared because why?
Well, I'm not that educated. I know I can go to work. I know I can do a lot of things, but then there was Gina and Paula and you guys. I mean, you guys were still,
Little kids.
yeah, yeah. You worry, how are you going to survive? I mean, how much money it takes to go out the door to make this happen. So, yeah. And I worried about you because I knew something was going on with you. I knew Carla was okay, but there was something going on with you that I never thought that you would think that you'd have to quit work. That blew me away.
Or quit school to go to work.
Yeah. That blew me away.
And so how did you make it all work? How did you survive?
Hey, you do from day to day. You start pinching your pennies. You're starting to think about what you're doing. The beauty shop was running on Colburn Road where we lived at our house next door. So I knew Elaine would take care of that. Uncle would take care of the barber shop. No big deal. I did the bookkeeping. I didn't make any actual money, but whatever money was made at the end of the day, I put in the bank. So that's how we survived.
Did you eventually get to a point where you felt like you'd made it?
Oh, yeah. I think I knew that. Yeah, I knew that we could be okay. That we would be okay.
When was that?
Oh, I'm sure it wasn't the first or second year by any means, But yeah, you know, and you can you find out things you can turn to too if you really have to, that for support. You know that.
Like what kind of things?
From the city. I mean, they do help people once in a while. They knew 7 kids. You're talking about a lot of problems here. So yeah, I knew that my taxes would be okay because of all you guys. So you just know, Dino.
How do you personally feel afterwards, like given that your husband had left?
Well, Dino, I wish Dad was here today. I do. I never ever met a man like him. And like I said, many men approached me after. No way. When you get the right man, you don't want a replacement. You do not. And it ain't going to happen anyway.
How do you feel like becoming a grandmother?
That's awesome.
How do you compare it being a grandmother to being a mother?
Taking care of them all day long and going home at night and say, "I'm free." That's an awful thing to say.
Do you remember the moment when you became a grandmother?
Yeah.
How was that?
Well, Monica almost gave birth to Gina. Gina had a rough time, I guess, giving birth to Amanda. That was nice. I liked that.
And how close? It was relatively close to Papa's death, wasn't it?
Pardon? Yeah, right after Dad. Almost right after Dad.
Did you feel as that was some kind of sign, maybe?
I think that's why Gina hung on to Dad so much after he did have his accident. She needed that. She talked to him. She never stopped talking to him all that time until he died. I was there.
Eventually, we all moved out, and you moved to Kitchener.
Mm-hmm.
How did you like being a grandmother to your to a couple more kids?
Well,
who were they? That was Sam and
Victoria.
And so how was it being grandmother to them?
It was fun. I enjoyed that. I really did. Victoria was a joy. She's more of a tomboy than Sam. They were digging up the road on Krug Street. She wanted to be out there every waking hour watching the guys. She asked them for a pylon, and they gave her one. She's just, she was awesome. And yet, today, she's scared of her own shadow almost. Scared to say out boo to somebody in front of her. How did that happen?
I'm not sure. All right. How about well? And so you're pretty happy. Life as a grandmother has been nice.
Oh yeah. I think. Do you know? Sam said it all. Thank you, Grandma, for taking care of me all this time. Where did that come from? Nope, you didn't tell him to do it. Crosby didn't tell him to do it. Mom isn't here. That's the best. That's the best thing a kid can tell you, right? You know, sitting in my lap.
So we're here on our last part with my mom, Eva. So Eva, how old are you today? Today is December.
82.
This is late December 2014. You're how old again?
82.
How does it feel being 82?
Miserable.
Why miserable?
Because I can't do anything that I want to do that I used to do. Well, that's not exactly true. I can still walk. I can do a lot of things. But yeah, I mean, I don't like be imposing on my kids. That's hard. You know? That's not their job. It's not meant to be their job.
Do you think there's something like this is probably a bit too simplistic, but it's like there's a circle of life, and then you take care of us, and then we take care of you? Do you think that's just the way?
No, it shouldn't. It shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't. I don't know. I don't know the solution, but I don't think it should be like that. But why I say that? Because some children will do that, and then there's a majority of them that won't do a thing. Do you know what I mean? And then how do they feel?
Do you think you have a lot of time left?
Probably not. And that doesn't bother me at all. I've had a beautiful life, and I love my kids to death. So no, if God calls me tomorrow, I'm ready.
Are you looking forward to seeing a certain older Italian gentleman in
yeah.
heaven?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. That would be fun. That would be absolutely fun.
Like I think a lot of people today are just kind of a little bit afraid of old age. What would you say to them?
Don't be. Enjoy your life as you grow, from little to old. You have to get old. I mean, you can't stay young forever. But if you can, I mean, I haven't been walking around here very much. But ask Paula, I will walk at our place, no problem at all. Up and down the stairs, no problem. Why? Because I feel comfortable there. I do. I won't walk up Carolyn's stairs. I'd fall for sure. I know that.
Mm-hmm.
Unless I had the proper slippers. The bottom part, you know? Something to catch the floor. In our place, you don't have to worry about that stuff.
Could you say a special note to us that we can listen to in a couple of years? Maybe this is guessing maybe one day you won't be here to talk to us. What one thing would you want to say to us?
And enjoy each other. I would love to see what's happening in our family. Get together and understand each other better. Because what they don't understand is they're all the same, but in a different spot in their life. Monica's the oldest. She's more mature. Carolyn thinks she's more mature. She's not. She's more bossy, that's all. Paula, I don't worry about Paula. She's okay. And you guys, I don't worry about you, Dino, either. I wish I could say that I didn't want you to stay a bachelor. I would love somebody to take care of you, and you take care of somebody. Get the pleasure of knowing how nice it is to love somebody and have the pleasure of each other. I'm not talking about sex either. It's that, it's that thing up here.
And what would you say to us in a couple of years? Like again, pretend we're playing this back, and we were sad that we missed you. What would you say to us?
If you were sad, if you guys were sad,
Yeah, that you weren't here.
I would say don't be sad. Be happy. Life is too short. Do something that makes you happy. Spend your money, do something. Whatever. Because I love you guys so much, and I wish so much the best for all of you. Really, 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 really.
Okay. Thanks, Mom.
You're welcome. My cold nose.
Bye, Mama.
I love you guys. I don't know if you guys know how much I love you. Eternity. I wonder. Sometimes I wonder if all moms feel like that, and I don't even know that, and I'll never know.
I think they do.
You think?
Yeah. Thanks, Mama.
You're welcome. You're quite welcome, Dino.